Hi, I'm Samuel Prather, Reason user since 2003. I wanted to take a minute today to just talk about fills. If you haven't checked out my video talking about voicing, do not collect $200 or pass go. Go back and listen to that first. I promise you it is, you'll thank me later. One thing that you'll notice me say a lot is that fills are almost a last resort. If you can get it done with a voicing change instead, I say do it that way. A fill is only for the places where a voicing change will not get the job done. Fills should be used very sparsely, and when they are used, they need to be used with purpose and skill. So I'm going to teach you how to do that today. Why do we need a fill? Well, we need a fill if we're going to announce a new section. And also it helps break up monotony if the groove is like really simple. But if you feel like you need to break up the groove, then maybe you should go back to the groove itself and fix the pocket first. Anyway, a fill does not have to be this big elaborate thing. Once again, if you can do it just by changing maybe one of the hi-hat notes over to a tom or something like that, and it has the same effect, then do it that way, because if you make a fill out of the groove itself, there's no risk of knocking the listener out of the groove. You do not want to do a fill that destroys the pocket. A great fill can make your song, but a bad one can destroy it twice as fast. I'm always in favor of doing research. If you're going to be programming drums, for the love of Pete, listen to real drummers play. This is not something that you can just watch one YouTube video and get. You need to listen to whatever kind of music that you're trying to make, and listen to different kinds of music so you can hear how different drummers react in different musical situations. All of these things together are going to help make your programming sound much better. This is not to say that you can't be creative, right? You can have a ton of room to create things that are individual to you. You can have a style, but you don't want your style to be ignorant of the genre in which you're playing. Motown sounds like Motown because of certain elements. That da-da-da-da-dum-dum, right? That fill is part of the vibe. If you're talking about modern gospel, it's going to be the da-da-da-da-da-da-boom. Those type of fills are really kind of specific to the genre. If you try to do a Motown fill in a modern gospel situation, it would sound really out of place, and vice versa. So just make sure that you're listening to the style of music. One of the things I like to do is imagine that Reason drum kits is a person and give it a personality, right? And my drummer might be aggressive or it might be real chill. Either way, you want to make sure that everything that you do is consistent with the personality of your drummer. You don't want to shock people. Now, I'm going to take a look at the screen of Reason. Reason has made it super easy to drop fills in here, and that's why I'm so cautionary about putting them in, because it's just so easy to do. All right, so I'm going to look at my Reason drum kits folder. I'm just going to go into MIDI files. I have a ton of both grooves and fills to choose from here. Let's check this one out. Not bad, right? Maybe not my choice. Wow. That works for me. It's that easy to drop a fill, and you just drag and drop a fill into place. You can get rid of any conflicts in MIDI programming by either deleting from the fill the downbeat, right, the crash and the kick drum, or you can kind of mute that in the track itself. But either way, you don't want them to be hitting together. All right, let's put another fill in. Let's do right on. I like it. Let's take this one fill. I want the same exact fill, but I want it to sound a little bit different, so I'm going to change something inside of it. Ah, I like that one. And let's start it here. So notice I took the same fill and now it sounds completely different. Let's do a voicing change here. This is the stock Reason fill. I've trimmed it down and moved the other drums out the way, which is cool. Let's move this to a tom. Let's move that to a snare. Voila. Alright, now because it's so easy to make a fill, don't fall into the trap of just putting them everywhere, especially when they're not needed. Once again, you start with the groove, right? And then you add in variation, you deal with voicing, and then when you need a little bit more to communicate that a new section is coming, then you start adding fills to things, and that's when you can switch around the voicings of the fills themselves to give variation so that it's not too repetitive. Now, sometimes you're gonna use a fill and realize that it's too much. Like this sounds like too much, especially when I'm breaking down to a rim shot. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna get rid of this whole thing, and what I'm gonna do is use a voicing change instead. And I think that fits much better. Remember, fills are a last resort. Do not overuse them. If you can get away with it with a voicing change, then just use the voicing change. And I know I might be talking about this in a really intense way, but it's okay if we screw this up because it's Reason. So anything we don't like, we can change at any point. Notice the voicing chain in the drums. I'm going to go up the fill going back to the verse. One thing I forgot to mention was do not put fills over other stuff. If there's a lead vocal or if there's a solo line that's like really important, do not put a fill over that. Fills are called fills because they go in a space, they fill up a space. Do not put fills over top of important things. A really important thing about a good fill is dynamics. So whether you program these yourself or use a Reason MIDI file to start with, you need dynamics. This fill might be functional, but it will sound terrible. Nobody wants to hear that. All this is just by deciding what notes are going to be important. Reinforce the groove as much as you can. You want your fill to make it clear where the downbeat is for the rest of the band. You don't want to be so slick that people can't figure out where the one is. Now that you've got this drummer that can play literally anything, you have to be super careful not to play something that sounds like just anything. Playing fills is one thing. How to use fills to set up hits is another thing altogether. I'm going to do another video on that, so keep your eye out for that. Hopefully you've learned something from what I covered today. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notifications tab so that you can find out when I'm coming out with new content. I'm Samuel Prather. Hopefully today I gave you another reason to create.